Welcome back. We're still speaking with Iyiola Bashiru, of course, and it is centered around the resignation of Abubakar Adamu as, of course, the APC's party chairman. We, of course, let's go, and talk more about, what may have led to his, resignation. There is insinuations that the outgoing chairman did not work for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during the primaries. And of course, that President Tinubu had somehow forced him to resign. Can you confirm, if this is true?
Thank you. Let me correct the impression. It's not a matter of insinuation we're talking about here, whether the past chairman worked for Asiwaju or not. In a recent interview, the past chairman confirmed that he did not work for Asiwaju. So that's a matter of fact. And for me, Asiwaju is one person that people know forgives and it doesn't really take you up on whatever experiences he's had with you in any manner that may be unnecessarily negative. But the question that comes to mind is, if a party chairman has been that partisan in the management of the party chairman at any point is supposed to be the father to every member of the party, and it is expected that even where he has some interest, as it were, this interest should be properly managed. Not in a way that it became so partisan, and at a point, the last party chairman was almost imposing a candidate on the party surreptitiously under the pretense that the national leader of the party was in support as a consensus candidate. But of course, in APC, democracy will always have its way, and Asiwaju and other aspirants insisted there must be democratic primary and eventually emerged. I wouldn't speak for Asiwaju, but as a chieftain of the party, I think there's some level of moralism and ethics that will come into this. The question some people are asking is, even since the emergence of Mr. President, how well has the past chairman been able to manage the party affairs in line with other, levels of governance in terms of the party itself, in terms of the legislative, and of course, in terms of the executive. So I think that there is no way we will pretend to say that it has been smooth within the main actors. That's the honest truth. Because if you don't have the sense of justice, sense of equity, sense of fairness that this country urgently requires, then you're likely to have a problem with the current expectations of Nigerians. I want to think that some of this might probably have led to the resignation of the last party chairman, of APC. Take, for example, a leader at every level, whether at the party level, legislative, or the executive level, must be sensitive and must be conscious of the expectations and aspirations of Nigerians. In the last election, Nigerians wanted a shift. And that shift was necessary because of the tradition that we're used to, from the north to the south, and from south back to the north. So there's no way for me as a person, somebody will still, after 8 years of a regional governance, somebody who is interested in Nigeria will still clamor for the same region to continue for terrorism. And if that person happens to be the chairman of a party that is progressive, that has come a long way in this line of tradition, there is no way that, personal belief will not in some ways interfere with his assessment of the requirements and expectations of Nigeria. So, and again, there was this accusation in the public domain, but I think the national vice chairman, from Northwest or so, Salihu, talking about even how the fund of the party was managed in the course of the election. If what he said was true, there is no way questions will not be asked to either confirm, or to debunk this. But for me, I want to salute the courage of the party chairman who saw all of this and who felt that, look, the best he can do for his own party is, of course, to tender his resignation, leave the stage at this point. And interestingly, from the report of some of the chieftains of APC who are the, NEC members, National Working Committee members, they confirmed that he even sent, a solidarity message, to the new look, official position.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're going to dig further, and, just before Olive comes in, you mentioned, that you didn't think it was right for, the party to continue with, so when we've just finished with the leader from the north, to once again continue with the same person from the north, once again continue in leadership. But, Nigerians did complain about a Muslim ticket, but that didn't seem to be a problem, for the APC. But let's bring in Olive now. We'll get back to that.
I'd like us to now have a conversation about the leadership in the APC. There are some who think that there might be some form of a leadership crisis going on, considering the fact that if we look at within the last 8 years, we've seen the likes of John Oyegun, Adams Oshomole, Governor, Mai Malabuni, and now Abdullahi Adamu left office in sort of similar controversies. So would this maybe point to some leadership crisis going on, or what would we allude all of this to?
Yeah, thank you very much. Don't forget that human endeavor is always dynamic, number one. Number two, we are also conscious of the fact that change is the only phenomenon, that we must be ready to contend with. Past 8 years, we had John Iyiola, who left that position voluntarily as a result of some developments within the party. He never contested the need for him to quit the stage at that point in time. And I also remember after Iyiola, I think we had Adamu Oshomole, and it's on record that it was even the court that requested that Oshomole should leave the state. So if a court has ruled, that's a decision that you must respect. We have Mai Malabuni, who came in as a caretaker committee chairman before we now have Adamu. But the point is this: at every point there was this change. Whatever the reasons that brought those changes, you will see that APC has grown from strength to strength, which means whatever necessitated those changes at those points were carefully considered, and decisions, strategic as they were taken in the best interest of APC. And that's why APC has continued to grow from strength to strength. So if changes were made, if changes were required to strengthen the party, to empower the party to gain further expansion, to record more successes, for God's sake, you must respect the leadership of the party, who at every point been bringing about seamless changes that have always left the party better than points at which these changes were made. Yeah. As human beings, it's natural that there are one or two crises, misunderstanding. But your ability to handle such misunderstanding for progress, for development, I think should matter for those of us who are in the party and for the general public who are watchers.
Yeah, well, the party, according to your perspective, might be growing from strength to strength, but governance doesn't seem to be growing from strength to strength. The lives of the Nigerian people doesn't seem to be growing or improving. And so it mostly seems like the APC as a party is focusing on the wrong things, focusing on how to better itself as a party and not better the lives of Nigerians. So I want to get your thoughts on that. And I've repeatedly asked since the election, every now and then when I have the opportunity to ask that question, that I believe that a lot of Nigerians will be very, very, very disappointed if after the elections and the promises that were made, and this is one of Nigeria's most tiresome electoral processes, that eventually has produced Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president. How disappointing it will be if nothing changes, if things don't improve, in the lives of Nigerians. The APC can play politics, it can play its internal politics, it can better itself as a party, but does it seem like a party that is interested and is going to change the story of Nigerians in the next 4 years?
Yeah, thank you very much. There's this saying that the morning shows the day, number one. Number two, when you say people are disappointed, because of the changes taking place in APC. I mean, I don't see why people should be disappointed.
No, I don't mean disappointed with the changes. I'm saying that they will be disappointed if, after all of the electoral periods and the lives were lost in the elections, people went through hell during these elections, and then a leader was produced, or a winner was produced. I'm saying that people will be disappointed if nothing changes, even after all of that. If the lives of Nigerians do not improve after all of that.
Okay. Yeah, let me go back with my opening statement. The money shows the day, number one. Then number two, Asiwaju's presidency is less than 2 months. And as of today, you will see some level of excitement. And of course, at the same time, the challenges, you understand, that face us. But the fact is this: there are policy pronouncements, there are steps that are being taken. And if you look at it, everybody also believes that so far so good, the steps being taken are the right steps. We must equally understand that there is no way you bring in changes without some structural adjustments that would naturally snowball into changing our ways of life. I mean, if you want something good, be ready and be prepared, you understand, for what is expected. There are challenges, no doubt about that. But I think that, in the fullness of time, government policies will come and change the tide. And Nigerians can look forward, to a responsible government, and a government, that will address the various issues that Nigerians have come to terms with now. So I'm going to plead with Nigerians that let's give Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his team some time to work around.
Yeah, but how much time would you say the average Nigerian should give the presidency? Because, and this is why. Every single day that passes, Nigerian lives are being lost, either through strife, suffering, or maybe even insecurity in different parts of the country. Yeah. I understand your perspective about, how the government is just about 2 months old, which is fine. I agree with that. But like you also described, the morning determines, I don't know how you said it, but yeah, the government, currently petrol price is the highest it has ever been. We are currently, reported this morning, Nigeria's inflation is the highest it's ever been at 22.79%. We are currently dealing with dollar prices as high as 820 naira to the dollar. The pound is above 1,000 already. The cost of living for the average Nigerian is seemingly the worst that it has ever been for the average Nigerian. Minimum wage is still 30,000 naira. A lot of states can't even pay that minimum wage. But the government itself, this same government that has, like you have also said, told Nigerians to sacrifice, to adjust, structural adjustment and whatnot, the government itself is not making those adjustments. The government itself is not reducing its cost of running itself. There are reports of 70 billion or 40 billion out for the National Assembly here and there. The government is still borrowing $800 million. The government is still sharing 500 billion naira amongst Nigerians as a way of, mitigating the petrol subsidy removal. These are not signs to the economists. Anybody would see this thing and say, these are not signs of a government that understands what is at stake and what must be done. I'm not sure how it is seen different. Is a government that is willing to carry 500 billion naira and share it like Gary to people? Is that a government that understands what's at stake and what must be done to fix Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me also say this, that even those who make comments about all of these issues, those who claim to be experts, cannot pretend, that the policies being put in place will still help to mitigate, in the long run, this current suffering of Nigeria. You're talking about 800 billion naira. Don't forget that this was in the offing, you understand, before the last administration. And for me, what I think, and we should not be oblivious of, is the multiplicity of policies and strategies. Some people are talking about, put this money into infrastructure, put this into this. A lot of people are giving different advices, which of course is fine. But even if you're talking about infrastructure now, will you put money into building of roads and all that, and when you start it today, by tomorrow you get the results? I foresee a situation that while the palliative of the 800 and 500 million is being done, there's no way, however little it might be, it will still go ahead and solve some, suffering at some level. While at the same time, other policy issues, other measures will be going on simultaneously. You want to build infrastructure, of course, why not? Should building infrastructure stop the palliative? I don't think so. You understand? The government as of today has declared an emergency as far as food security is concerned in Nigeria. And that's because the government is conscious that price of foods are going up and all that, and there's a need, to confront it. There's no way the government would command food, to come, to fall down from heavens. Even when you're talking about food and all that, you still have to cultivate the land, you still have to plant the seed, you have to mentor it. It will take some time too. So we're in for a medium and a long distance run. And we as Nigerians, we must be ready for the reality. But what we also need to do is, rather than creating unnecessary crises in terms of various analyses, even analysis that cannot stand the test of time, I think all we need to do is to ensure that the government policies to address these issues are being put in place, without further delay.
But I'd like to ask, do you agree that we should, what we're running right now is not government as it should be run, and that there is a dire need to cut the cost of governance? Whilst the citizens are making the sacrifices with their minimum wage that is really subpar, with the increase in the cost of goods and services, do you think that the government on its own part has to cut the cost of governance?
I have always been an advocate of affordable governance. So I also support that the cost of governance will have to be reduced. And I want to think that the president and his team, they are more conscious of that. And reducing the cost of governance too will not, it's not going to be by proclamation just one day. You see, if you are running an administration, you must look at the various loopholes. You must look at the various factors responsible for the cost of governance at every point in time. You must come up with strategic approach to reduce governance. It cannot be a knee-jerk approach. It cannot be just wake up and you are making pronouncements. You don't do that. You must be sure that the factors, the indices required to change the face of governance, to reduce cost of governance, are properly identified, and implementation strategies are put in place to cut it. It's going to be, a sustainable, you understand, kind of implementation, and not a sudden knee-jerk orders to get all of this done. So I'm an advocate of reducing the cost of governance. I'm an advocate of getting life better for Nigerians. I'm also an advocate of the fact that all of this will have to be done systematically, considering the kinetic and the non-kinetic factors. Apologies to the vice president, that must be put in place to get this done. So I'm optimistic, but I also believe that, we need some time, to get some of this thing to begin to show and to begin to impact on the lives of Nigerians.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. We hope that, a number of these things, like you said, it's not just mere talk, that there are policies that will be implemented and we can see action. The Nigerian people are saying, whilst we are bearing the brunt of governance, we want to see that the government is also taking its own step. So
let me come in. If you look at it now, so many people have visited Asiwaju, stakeholders in Nigeria. You understand? And at every point, after their meeting, they express optimism.
All right. So
that's what they're expected to say.
Yes.
They're not expected to say different. They're not going to go visit the president and then leave and address the press and say they're disappointed in him. They will express optimism. But it's the reality. It's the reality in the life of the Nigerians.
A person like Oba of Benin will not capitulate under any pressure.
That he's my Oba. I'm from Edo State. The Oba of Benin is my Oba, and I know that of course he will not capitulate. But at the same time, we understand that politics will still be played.
I'm sorry. Let me make this point. There is this insinuation too all over the place that probably Nigeria is going to become a one-party state. It has never happened, and it will not happen. Those who visited the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, being led by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They didn't visit the national leader of APC. So if
All
they're
right.
expressing confidence, a person like Wike, a person like Awashe, and all those that are busy, they have a good idea of what Nigeria is. They have a good idea of what Nigeria should look like.
The good thing is that
no other choice to be available to support this government, because willy-nilly the government we have in place is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed.
The good thing is that we know that time would be the greatest revealer of some of the conversations we've had today. So we're just going to give it some time, like you said, and see, what is being put in place. But we thank you very much for joining us and speaking to us this morning on Breakfast Central.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the honor you've given me to be part of the discuss and Project Nigeria.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.